to me, he is like an old school throwback New York. Hey Jim, how you doing?
John, how's it going? I'm good. I just got back to LA a few days ago. I was in Chicago during all this quarantine for the last few months, so readjusting.
Yeah, what part of Chicago were you in?
Just visit. I'm from Chicago, so I was, with family. Right in the suburbs, Rosemount, Des Plaines. It's right by the airport, right by O'Hare over there.
Right. Yeah. I used to live in at Division in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
A lot of cool hangouts out there too, and food places.
It wasn't when I was there, but I've been back since, and it's a lot nicer now.
Oh yeah, the whole area changed, so now it's like a hot spot.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad we have this connection through that. I can relate to that. How you been? How are you? Where are you at currently?
I'm actually back in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now, and I live in upstate New York. I'm from here. And, I'm about to be getting into prep on another thing I'm doing. So I'm down here just getting ready to go back to work.
There you go. That's always a good thing, huh? So it looks like things are slowly starting to open up and in terms of the film industry. So that's good news right there.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's awesome. Well, this movie's exciting too to talk about. I spoke to Michael yesterday, actually. So it's good to get a chance to talk to you. I was curious about the concept of the film since you wrote it and directed it. Where'd you come up with this idea? Is this an actual thing? These kind of kids who are, in a sense, on the street and be taken up. Where did this idea kind of come about? Was there something you've seen that kind of sparked your mind? I'm just curious where this idea has come from because I haven't seen too many movies with this sort of concept.
Yeah, I think I wrote it because I hadn't seen any movies with this concept. My kind of biggest influences growing up were, Rumblefish and Outsiders, and then, Jim Thompson crime novels, and, Dickens books and things like that. So I think, I did and do know of things like this, not directly, not as this wasn't directly ripped from anything real that I know of. I did read a lot about Romanian street thieves and kids and how that whole circuit works in Europe and some other things that have happened here in New York and, in places in Chicago, back kind of in the 80s and stuff, and then some stuff in Seattle that happened. But it didn't really come from that. I just kind of sought those real things out just for reference after the fact and writing it. So
in terms of like writing the story in itself, because you obviously have to come up with a cinematic kind of story to match this idea. How did you start approaching how you wanted to lay out the film, and how did the characters change when you were laying them out versus when you got to the point of starting to cast? Did anything kind of change throughout that process from writing to kind of going into production?
Yeah, I think a lot. It's at least in this situation. I mean, we didn't have a huge budget, so there wasn't really any guarantees in terms of who we were going to be able to cast. And obviously, we ended up with a great cast, but I didn't really have the foresight of any of these people actually ending up in the film. So I think I kind of wrote these kind of archetypes for these characters, and then really kind of dug in when it was time to cast and spoke to everybody involved and kind of saw where their head was at, how they saw the character, and then figure out how we could kind of meet in the middle and stay as true to the page as possible, but also make something authentic to who they are and what they're capable of as well.
You mentioned the cast right there, and this is a heck of a cast. I mean, you talk about guys like Ron Perlman and Boone, and then for me, Michael Pitt is one of the really quintessential underrated mega stars in Hollywood. Like, you seeing his career come up with such a young age, and the movies he's done. I actually talked to him about it. he should be a mega star, in this industry, but he's chosen so many intricate projects, and from what he kind of said, he's drawn to these indie films. Tell me, how important was it to have Michael in this film? Because, I mean, he's a next level actor in so many ways, and really brought this character to life, because I felt this character of Oscar had so many layers to it, especially him as an adult. It wasn't just a bad guy or he's a protector. He's kind of trying to survive. There's so many layers there to that character in particular. Tell me how Michael helped that character come to life and the layers that character had, because I really thought that was one big takeaway, is how much depth that character especially had, and how Michael really perceived him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I can say there. I think, just in terms of Michael specifically, to me, he is like an old school throwback New York actor. I think he, when the first scene we shot with Michael was the scene when he first is introduced, where he takes the guns from the kids and puts them back on them, and is kind of schooling them on this way of life. And, I'll never forget watching the first take on the monitor and just not even really, I wasn't prepared for what I was, what I got to see. And I'm a huge fan of Michael, back to like Hedwig and all of his earlier films and Bully. And, I really think he is one of the greatest living actors and such a treasure. And, one of the things I respect most about him is how particular he is about the work he does. And, and I really got to understand why when I was working with him, because he is so thoughtful and particular about everything he does. And, when he kind of showed up, we kind of locked ourselves in a room in his hotel room for about 4 days and did not leave, and went through every word on the page. And if it wasn't right or didn't directly, kind of tether itself to something real for him, I tried to find something that would. And I think that really comes through when you watch his performance, where this film to me is very much like kind of an homage to old, just kind of culty 70s cinema that doesn't really get made anymore. And when I watch Michael, it's, I don't know, I mean, we joke that he's got like a Brando presence, but I think it's really, really true. He's got this brooding masculinity that's just so raw and authentic that, I feel cheated. I told him I feel cheated that I don't get to see it more, but I respect how, particular he is about what he does.
That's well said. I agree with all these points, because I really see it from that perspective too. I feel like every time you work on a movie, you take away something or learn something from it as a performer, or especially as a director and writer. What's something that stood out to you about this movie that you took away from either going forward, maybe in your personal life, or as as a director and writer? Is there anything that kind of stands out to you that really was, maybe, I don't want to call it maybe a light bulb moment, but something along those lines where really took you back for a second and maybe you incorporated down the road?
I think just to trust your instincts, and a film, very much as soon as it kind of leaves my hand as the writer and is handed out to everybody on the crew and to the cast, it's very much a living, breathing thing that you have to respect. As that, it's no longer mine. I'm just there to kind of shepherd it and try and keep it on the tracks. And, the moment I try and take it back and make it mine again is the moment that the movie will suffer. And so I learned that, I have to completely kind of give myself over to that and accept that it is no longer mine. It is just my job to kind of make sure that it stays healthy. That's what I learned most, is that to really respect the process and not try and control it in ways I'm incapable of.
I think that says a lot. I think that shows humility too, because, especially in the sense this movie could be your baby, right? You wrote it, directed, and it's tough to sometimes let go. It's like letting your child grow up and let them learn on their own instead of micromanaging everything. That takes a lot, I feel like, confidence and in humility in someone to kind of let it be and let it go and let it develop, instead of trying to, since like you're the one that kind of initially started it, that you want to control every aspect of it. I think that says a lot, and that's really interesting for me to hear that approach. I think that says a lot about you as a filmmaker too, and as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in indie film, and especially with a film like this, where it's a lot. It's a bold decision to try and make a film like this with the budget we had. I think more people than not advised against it. But
wow.
I didn't see a way that the movie would get made if we didn't try. And so I think to the point I just made, accepting your limits and really trying to stay true to what the movie is within those limits is something else I took away as well. So
I always like to ask directors, actors, because it's basically, as an actor myself too, in order to be a performer, a filmmaker, a creator, you need to live a full life. I feel like you can't just be that performer we need to have real life experiences to bring that into your work. So I'm always curious to ask, whenever I'm doing interviews, what are some of your hobbies and interests outside of the industry that you enjoy? Because you need to sometimes get away from the industry in order to kind of function and move forward. Are there some things for you that you enjoy doing to kind of get away, or hobbies and interests that you have?
To be honest with you, I mean, I spent so many years, up to no good and getting into trouble that, in order to actually succeed in making films, I've had to really simplify my life. I live in the woods now. I kind of live with training wheels on, I like to say, because I get into trouble really easily, and it's not the good kind of trouble. So to answer your question, I really just try and keep my life simple. I watch, I've taken this opportunity the past, however many years I've kind of cleaned my act up to really educate myself in film and really go backwards as far as I can and as thoroughly as I can, and read a lot. It's very much been since wrapping Run with the Hunted, I've shot another film and it's done, and gearing up to do another. So I just try and stay busy and get as many reps at this as I can, because I really want to get better, and I really want to keep doing this. So I don't do a lot else. I eat, I sleep very little, and I read and watch as much as I can. So
spoken like a true
I stay sane.
creative.
I'm staying busy.
Yeah. Spoken like a true creative. No sleep, no nothing. Just focusing on getting by. Thank you so much for taking the time, John, to speak to me. I'm looking forward to seeing your next movie, Body Broker. So I read a little bit about it and saw that sounds like another interesting project you have on hand. So I'm definitely looking forward to see when that's coming out.
Excited to show it to you, man.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can talk about it when it's on the way. Definitely good things coming for you. So thanks for taking the time. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was awesome. And I hope you keep on creating these kind of interesting stories, that throwbacks too, that we don't get to see, saturated in the industry with so many other stuff. So unique stuff is always good. But appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.